Hello everyone, it's Karen Burniston here to talk about our website, KarenBurniston.com, and our wafer thin dies. So I am a die designer that focuses on pop-up dies, that's my specialty, and for the next few days from June 19th through the 25th, 2021, you will be able to get free US shipping on any order over $10, no code needed at our website, KarenBurniston.com. Okay, our newest 12 dies that came out kind of the end of April. I'm going to kind of focus on these today and use the majority of my time to actually teach a card idea. So today I'll be showing how to use some of our new dies along with some of our previously released dies to make a fun little double tree, tiny trees pop-up card. Okay, but before I get to that, let me just kind of tell you about the new dies and what they do. First up, slim flaps and frames and picnic elements. So, little history of this one. At a previous event, I actually taught how to do a 4-panel slimline card where you could animate, a different little small pop-up inside each one. And for that one, I was focusing on our mini pops pop-up, which creates those little small platforms, and then a die set that we have called the slim frames, which makes 4 really cool frames that would fit on that subdivided slimline. But when I taught this, you actually had to cut all those flaps by hand. And this has been a very popular style of card. And so we did get requests to have a die set that would make it easier. So this die set, the slim flaps and frames, cuts the flaps with the tab attached so that you can subdivide a 4x9 slimline into 4 opening panels. And then it comes with all sorts of cool decorator pieces to decorate those panels. So here's the one from the packaging. You can see, all of those layers with the banners and the hearts and the little, diamond frame. Not Happy Spring, that's a separate die. And then there's those picnic elements, a separate die. But all of the base structure is made using the slim flaps and frames. And then inside this one, I'm using the mini pops again to make the pop-ups, the picnic elements. And you can see, kind of a little line of ants and everything. The picnic elements are fun into this card here. And then for this one, it uses magnets to hold it together. Now you can kind of get creative. This was one that I had taught as a class where we actually used the slim flaps and frames with no magnets and instead added a little long side flap to it to keep them closed. Then when you opened it, once again, those mini pops and the picnic elements being used. And then also our new tiny trees pop-up and the tree fruit. So let's look at those dies. Let's see. Tiny trees, we're going to use that on our card today, and the tree fruit. So you can do also, you don't need the tree fruit. It's just kind of fun when you want to take your tiny trees and make them into fruit trees. Here's a card by Karen 𝐒𝐿𝐭. I love this one where she's done the tiny trees in a little small slimline card, side fold, and she's added the cherries and then some of the elements that come out of the tiny trees, but then also those slim flaps and frames. So you'll definitely be using, those pieces in all sorts of cards. Now, you can build that tree right over the center fold of a side fold card or a top fold card. But what's cool about this die set is it also includes a cool die that's a fold splitter. And when you use the fold splitter die, it actually moves your trees off of the center fold and you can animate 2 trees on each fold splitter. So you can do a double tree card like this, and that could be side fold or that could be top fold. It's going to work either way. Or if you go up in card size to a 5x7, then you have room to do 4 trees in a card. And you can see this one this is one from the packaging, and this one really shows off all of the little elements that you get in that die set to be able to decorate for all 4 seasons. So you get, a heart and some flowers and a couple different kind of birds and different leaves, snowflakes, you get everything you need to decorate your tiny trees for all 4 seasons. Okay, that can be a top fold, or here's the one from the assembly video, it can be side fold. And you do also have the option to use the tiny trees to make flat trees as well. But here's the same idea done in a side fold card, 4 trees. Oh, a little extra piece of tape there. And then on this one, using that tree fruit to make them into cherry trees. So the tree fruit, this is sized to fit the tiny trees, but you have pears and apples and lemons and oranges and peaches, or apricots, I guess, and cherries. And it cuts multiples. So it's gonna be real friendly, you know, for being able to get a lot of fruit really fast to decorate your tiny trees. Okay, another new die set that goes great with both of these previous die sets. Let's see, I'm gonna do a little housekeeping here. The ones that I've already shown you out of the way. Okay, here's Slim Flaps and Frames again. This time subdivided into a little one at the top. This one shows our new welcome word. That one's new in the new release. Welcome, it cuts the word welcome and it cuts a shadow for the word welcome. And you can kind of see how well it goes with a previously released die we have that is Home Sweet Home. So everything with our brand is meant to be backwards compatible. So new things come out and they coordinate perfectly with things that came before them. But in this case, 2 panels put on the same side so that the center flap is actually a double. And then that gives me enough room to animate another new pop-up we have, which is our new tiny house pop-up. And for this one, final one, you know, just to open to sign the card. So tiny house pop-up, let's look at that one. And let's have mushroom tiny house add-ons as well. Okay, there is a really cool feature in the tiny house pop-up, and that is that the roof is actually a die and stamp all in one. So if you see that cool shingle pattern on the roof of the house, it's actually been stamped on there by the die. You just ink up the die, and when you roll it through to die cut it and score it, it will actually stamp the shingle pattern on at the same time. And this is a good example of the welcome used with one of the homes from the Home Sweet Home. So everything works really well together. Okay, so that is the tiny house. Now, and it has all sorts of fun little, you know, flowers and flower boxes and a chimney and, you know, door and everything that comes with the set. So you can make, you know, you get all those little pieces to make your really cute tiny house. But then we started in this release with our first of the tiny house add-ons, and there will be more coming of little ways that you can take your tiny house as a base die and then convert it with an add-on set. So this add-on set is called the Mushroom Tiny House Add-Ons, and it does not replace anything in the tiny house. It only just adds on. So this one will make the tiny house with a different roof so that it resembles a mushroom tiny house. And then this one comes with rounded windows and doors, a piece of grass to attach out here. It's got a little mushroom top for the chimney. So that's the Mushroom Tiny House Add-Ons. Goes great with the tiny house. We have some other die sets that work really, really well with the Mushroom Tiny House, including our Gnome and Santa and our Backyard Charms. So those are previously released dies that were great with that set. Let me show you kind of those together. Here I had them in a pile, and then I've buried my pile with all of my cards over here. But let's see if I can find them. There we are. I see them. Okay, so Gnome and Santa, Backyard Charms. Backyard Charms is where you would find the little fairy. And look how cute, combining the tiny house with the Mushroom Tiny House add-ons, and then those Backyard Charms, and maybe, you know, the little gnome looks great with it too. Okay, so really good add-ons for those. And then here's a card where it's kind of all put together, right? So you've got the Backyard Charms with the fairy, and you've got the tiny trees used flat here. But then when you open it, oh, and even the Slim Flaps and Frames, you've got the tiny mushroom house. Here we've got, using the fold splitter, we've got 2 tiny trees in the back, some little fairies in the trees, and a whole kind of fun mushroom fairy garden, I guess, so to speak, on that one. Here's the one from the assembly video for the tiny house pop-up. This one actually uses a previously released die called our Holiday House, and that works great maybe on the front of the card if you were doing a tiny house card, although you can actually just use the pieces from the tiny house to make a house as well. So, you know, it's kind of up to you. This one's a little bit more elaborate, different roof lines and things like that. But you can also start kind of combining, you know, maybe the flower boxes and flowers out of the tiny house with the pieces from the Holiday House. So this one is meant to say basically our house, and then here's the tiny house. You are welcome. So, you know, just think of the tiny house as just kind of a scene builder die. So it doesn't have to be, you know, welcome to the neighborhood or, you know, new house or whatever. It can be just, you know, a card to say thinking of you or hello. So here's one that I did a video for where I've used the pieces out of the tiny house on the front of this card. And then inside there's the tiny house. There's a tiny tree attached to the back. This one actually uses an extra little pop-up called our spinner square so that the hello greeting is both elevated and animated, and there's a full video on that. Okay, let's make a pop-up card. I am going to combine 5 of our die sets. So 2 are from our newest release. We're going to use the Tiny Trees pop-up and the Slim Flaps and Frames. And then I'm also going to incorporate our Long Rectangles crosshatch. For a greeting, I'm going to use our Word Set 6 Summer. And then just for the bee, I'm going to use our Flowers and Bee die set. Okay. First thing I did is I cut a card, because you always choose your own card size. One thing that's really popular right now is slimline cards, including mini slimlines where they get shortened. And normally a mini slimline would be small enough to fit in that smaller envelope. I don't know the name of that envelope, but slimlines themselves are designed to fit in a number 10 business envelope. So a business envelope will actually accommodate a 4-inch wide card, and I really do like to have 4 inches when I'm using the Tiny Trees pop-up. So what I did for this card is I made my own version of a shortened slimline, making it 6 3/4 by 4. So this piece of cardstock started at 6 3/4 by 8, and then I scored it at 4 inches to make a top fold card. Okay, so this is the crosshatch rectangle that I used. It is, let's look at the set here. It's actually the smallest version that has the crosshatch pattern on it. Okay. Okay, so here's the bright, colorful interior of my card. And then what I'm going to do now is switch to the Tiny Trees pop-up. Okay. And you have choices on the Tiny Trees pop-up as to where it goes, but for this one, I'm just going to do 2 trees over the center fold. And what I've done is I've die cut ahead of time the tree that has the notch up the center and the tree that's more solid. And I need that twice because I'm going to actually add 2 trees. And then there is a base piece in the set for gluing it into the card. And you always have the choice as to whether you cut your base piece out of your tree color so that it looks more like the tree, or whether you cut your base piece out of your ground color. And I decided on a green, so it would be more like the ground is this piece. And the way this works is there are score lines that the die has made. There's one next to the tapered tab. There's one on either side of the bottom tabs. So here, here, here. I found 5 of them. And then the final one is right in the middle of the piece. And if it's ever difficult to see those, you basically can fold that in half where the tabs line up at the bottom and you can see through both sets of holes, and then you'll have found all the folds. And it's this tapered tab that is used to connect to the other side. So it essentially makes like a hexagon shaped base like this with these 2 tabs at the bottom, and then the 2 tabs just fold in and they meet at the fold of the card. So it's those tabs that actually connect it to the card. Okay. So let's see, I'm going to put a tree on this side, I'm going to put a tree on this side. So, and I'm going to flatten my base so that the 2 tabs are sticking out and I can see through both sets of holes. And then I'm going to add some adhesive to one of those tabs on the back there. Okay. And then I'm going to fold this up a little bit so that I make sure that I'm getting up close to the fold, but not all the way, or not crossing it. Okay, and then I can just use this tree to make sure, you know what, I want to give myself room for some foliage though. So I'm going to come in a little bit so that I have a little room outside the branches for foliage that I'm going to add to the tree. So maybe something like this. Okay, and then I'll do the same on the other side. Put my adhesive on the tab and then pick a spot. I'm going to kind of match what I did on the other side here. So it's like crosshatch plus a couple dots for me. So probably somewhere like here. I'm not going to spend a lot of time measuring, but just kind of getting it sort of matched. Okay, so now I have the base attached on one side of the fold. And then I'm going to keep these flat. I'm going to add my adhesive to these top tabs. Okay, and keeping everything flat, I'm going to close the card against that exposed adhesive. And I'm using glue, so I got to give it a second to set up. Sometimes what I'll do too is go in there and just slowly open it and try to put my finger in there where I can give that tab a press as I open it that first time so that it doesn't just want to pop off and it will actually adhere to the card. Okay, so both tabs are attached. I've got my 2 tree bases in the card. Alrighty, now let's talk about the upper part of the tree. So for each tree, I need a slotted tree and I need a solid tree. And I start with the slotted tree, and at the top of the slot, I see there's a little branch right here that's sticking over, kind of sealing the slot, but not quite. And what I want to do with that is I want to fold it down so that it hits the other side of the tree somewhere, because that's actually going to seal off the top of my slot so the trees can't come apart. Okay, so just that little branch in the center, folding it over, letting it hit this tree somewhere, it doesn't matter where. You know what, I'll just use a pen. Okay, and I'm just going to add myself a little dot to remind myself where that branch is going to hit. Okay, because I can't attach it yet. Because the first thing I need to do is get this other tree nested into this first one. So at the bottom, I get the slots aligned. And then I have to wiggle this other tree kind of through this one until that little fold over branch is coming through the center of the other tree. See, I can actually put the trees over the top of each other, and then when I fold that fold over branch down and glue it to my little pen line, it's going to seal off the top of the slot so that those two are permanently put together. Put a little glue on my spot. Sorry, just making sure these are straight before I put it in my glue there. Okay, and then I just press that little branch down. Okay, so let's see if I can get real close so you can see. The branch is basically sealing the slot so that now these two are together. Okay? All right, now let's talk about putting these in the base. What's nice is you don't need any adhesive. You have tabs on the bottom. You have holes on the base. You're going to get one of those tabs from the outside through each of those holes. It's really not difficult to do at all. You saw how quickly I put that on there. And then now that tree will be, you know, folding down and popping up. And what's nice is that I could take it out of there. So if I needed to change something or something, I could do that. All right, so I'm going to put the other tree together and get it in this base. Okay, I added the other tree in the exact same manner, and now I'm ready for some foliage on my tree. So the die set includes this die that will cut 4 matching foliage pieces at one time, and you can cut through 2 layers at a time. So you need 8 foliage pieces for a tiny tree, but you can do that all in one pass by just layering up 2 pieces of cardstock or pattern paper at the same time. You can also do this before you add the trees to the card, but I kind of wanted to show it going in first. Okay, so I've added glue to the back of my branches on one little side of a tree. And then for the one that's closest to the center, let me get them both on and then I'll just show you real close to the camera. The one that's closest to the center, I try to orient it so I basically kind of have a vertical edge with my foliage so that the foliage isn't really going through the tree and it won't impede it opening and closing. And then on the bottom one, it doesn't matter. You know, you can rotate it and put it anywhere you want as long as your card will accommodate it. And I'm getting close to the edge of my card, but I'm okay. All right, so then I'm just going to repeat that with the other side. So quick and easy, cute little tree. Now I'm going to do the exact same thing for this one. Okay, so I did the exact same thing with the foliage on this tree, and now I'm ready to decorate. So one thing I thought would be fun would be to string some banners between the trees. So those banners and hearts actually come out of the other die set. I'm using the slim flaps and frames. It includes a fishtail banner and a triangle banner, and then some hearts that will fit on it. So what I've done is I've just cut those banners out of the same colors as my pattern paper, and I'm going to string them on a piece of twine, and I'm going to keep them pretty close together because I'm going to try and put 5 banners across this card, and there's not like a huge amount of space. So the way these banners work is you just add your adhesive, fold over, and glue them to themselves, but sandwiching the twine as you go. And you can, like I'm doing, overlap the banner next to it a little bit to keep them really close together if you want to. So it's kind of completely up to you. as to how you do those banners. So here's my little string of 5 banners ready to go on the tree. You kind of have choices as to how, you could just tape, or adhere the twine to the back of the foliage somehow, or if you can weave it through a branch, as I'm going to do, you could tie the banners off. Okay, so now the banners are hung from the trees. And then the other thing I thought would be fun dangling from the tree would be the tire swing. So I've used a mirror black cardstock and cut it twice and glued it back to back so that even if it spins, it'll look great on both sides. And then I'm taking a piece of twine, looping it in the center, putting the loop through the center of the tire swing, and then pull the ends through. And then just pull those tight. And then I've got the twine attached to the tire swing. Then I just have to tie a knot in the other end over. Oh, that's perfect. Okay, so I just dangled it over that branch, and then my foliage fell off, so I'll just put the foliage back on from me peeling it up here. Okay. And that's good because it'll actually anchor the tire swing in so it can't fall off. All right, there we go. Now we have the tire swing. Here is the finished interior of my card. So I've added flowers in the trees with one of the birds. Then I layered my pieces together to make my greeting block and added a couple flowers. And then down here, a place to sign the card again with the other bird and the flower. Okay, so my favorite way to make card fronts is just, because people are going to display these open, these fun pop-up cards. This is where the magic is. So I'm not here to say you have to double your work. I'm saying just make a simple lead-in, just following the same kind of theme that you have going on the inside with leftover materials. And what I did is I kind of did that ahead of time, using my slim flaps and frames and layering, the same banners. I used the little bee out of the flower and bee set. I made just a branch with a hanging tire swing, kind of a nod to what you're going to find on the inside of the card. And then 3 of those rectangles will just fit across the front of the card. Okay, so here's my finished shortened slimline pop-up tiny trees card. And if I wanted to mail that, then I would use that long number 10 envelope, and I can either put it in there and just not bother about the extra distance, in other words, it can slide from one way to the other, or it's not like you couldn't always just seal down your envelope with the excess space so that you end up with a spot in the middle that just holds the card of the size that you have made. The other thing that's kind of cool about making cards with dies is that you're always choosing your colors, patterns, and themes, right? So this is Hello Summer, but this can also just be a recipe to make that card in a completely different color scheme and theme. So here's the exact same card I just made, but this time in a Happy 4th of July theme. And you can see I've got stars on one tree, stripes on the others. I put USA on the banners, added my little greeting. This time I kind of switched to a pretty label out of one of our other die sets, the paper frames pop up. But you really can just use these card, videos as just templates and just make them in whatever colors you like. To see these dies and more, head on over to our website, KarenBurniston.com. Thanks for watching.